Hello, welcome to Father Founded. I'm Brian Hjort, and I'm going to introduce you to the new series of film we call Vietnam Talk. And this is going to be a series of interview with Vietnam veterans, relatives, people who make movies, people who went to Vietnam, and many more things. And today we're going to introduce to Frank Schafer, and he's a Vietnam veteran who had a very special story to share. So I hope you're going to like it.
One. Okay, Frank, and welcome to Vietnam Talk. And it's a pleasure to have you here. And Frank, it's a big thing to having you here because it took me a while to get you through to Vietnam Talk because we had some technical difficulties. But anyway, here we are. And Frank, would you mind to tell me and the rest of the people a little bit about yourself, where you're living, and in general?
Okay, right now I live in Somers Point, New Jersey, which is a shore area. And most of my life I lived in and around South New Jersey.
All right.
Moved out of state other than I was in Vietnam, of course, and then they sent me to Germany after that. And I always came back here.
So, Frank, you had quite a story to tell, and when I saw the movie you sent to me, the small film is really something I never saw in my life. I've been doing work with the Vietnam since 1992, and I saw a lot of photos from the Vietnam veteran, from the emigration, from relatives, from Vietnamese, but I never saw anybody who had a small camera, a small filming camera, filming even something like that in Vietnam. How come you end doing this kind of film? I mean, it's amazing. It's like going back to the history, going straight back that many generations, that many years ago.
Yeah, well, I was lucky to still have it. It was I took that video in something they called a Super 8 video.
Yeah.
Movie camera, they called it, and they were
Wow.
actually film. So I was lucky to have it. I think my mother sent it to me.
Wow.
It took me a while.
But Frank, this piece of film had its own history, right? Can you tell me this history? I mean, I know maybe I shouldn't jump straight into this part of the story, but it's part of you, and it's part of why you're here, and it's part of why we've been talking to each other. Tell me about this little piece of film, why it means so much.
Well, real quick, I had about 3 hours of video, and I kept these things stored up in my mother and father's attic, and I didn't pay much attention to them over the years. And then they had a fire, and I went in and I brought them out, and I thought, well, maybe I can get these made into a disc or something that I can actually watch them. And I took them to a place, and the guy was only able to get about 12 minutes of video that would work. The rest of it was either damaged in the fire or whatever. So, and then he put music to it. So if you hear music playing,
Yeah.
do with the music. And I think he thought I was a Korean veteran because the music is like from the 50s, not the late 60s.
But Frank, all the way back to start again. You went to Vietnam, but how come you end up in Vietnam? What's the story about that?
Oh, well, I had a girlfriend here, and she decided to break my heart. So I decided to get even with her and join the Army and volunteer to go.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, which was not, well, I was 18. I wasn't too smart.
True. Where did you went? I mean, when you end up served the Army, how come, the Army, the Air Force?
Oh, yeah, I was in the Army, and my MOS was 51M20, which means it's the airport fire department with a specialty of crash and rescue. So we got to go out sometimes and come back. And I was stationed in Phu Hiep Army Air Base, and
To those people who don't know where Phu Hiep Army Air Base is, where is it located? Close to what city? Big
It's
city?
very close to Tuiwa, which is a pretty
Oh,
big city, and I think it's north of it's just south of Quinyon, I think.
that's up in Ico, right?
Yeah, well, it's in the coast. Yeah, on the coast.
Wow.
I was lucky to be on the coast. A lot of, and I was lucky not to be in the infantry. I mean, I saw things that I don't want to remember, but I wasn't being shot at every day and shooting back every day. We basically
Wow.
we got mortared a lot. They were the BC were always lobbing in mortars, so you never knew you were going to get a whole night's sleep. But anyway, at one point, and I think this is the important part of the story, at one point, I had the same girl that broke my heart started writing me nice letters and said she loved me again. So for about
Wow.
6 months, we were writing letters back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
And then she sent me a for real Dear John, like Dear Frank,
All right.
I don't love you the way you love me, blah, blah, blah. So I dealt with that as best I could. And then I thought, well, maybe I should go out in the village and see what's happening, see if I can meet somebody. Now, the girls in the Phu Hiep village, if they were going to talk to you at all, it's because they were in, they were in brothels.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I got to know I found out after a while that most of the girls in Vietnam that were people might want to call hookers and things like that, they were really indentured slaves.
Mm-hmm.
The women had little or no value in that particular culture.
Mm-hmm.
The men were important. So, and they had, throughout all of Vietnam, they had these gangsters, sort of like what used to be the Italian mafia here. And if you had debt, which everybody did because they were very poor, these people, they would take away some of your debt if you gave them the daughter.
Wow.
So I would say, I don't know what the percentage is, but the girlfriend I had there was definitely an indentured slave.
Wow.
So, I went into the village of Phu Hiep, which was, we weren't allowed to be in there at night, and I snuck off the base and went in there and I negotiated with the Mama-san. And I wrote, all these stories are written, you can find them. But I negotiated with her, and she wanted me to take this other girl, and I said, no, I like this girl back here. And so she agreed to that, and I spent the night with that girl that night. And then I made an agreement with the Mama-san that I could pay her by the month so that whenever I could sneak into the village, I could be with this girl. Her real name was Chow. I don't have her last name. And her nickname was Bonnie. And
wow.
she's in that video.
Yeah, no, I saw her.
Right. And she was very pretty.
Wow.
And she was tall for a Vietnamese girl. She was,
amazing.
I would say she was about 5'5", and most of these Vietnamese girls were like 5'1" or less. They were very.
You have any idea how old she was?
She was 18. I was 19 when I met her.
Wow.
So we spent. In a month I could get in there maybe 5 or 6 times, and then we would sleep like husband and wife. We was a little cot, and we'd sleep there all night.
Wow.
And so one day she said to me, and she called me GI. That was her name. She said, GI, I'm pregnant. I have baby for you.
Oh my God.
Said, baby for me. I said, well, we know what you do. Maybe that's not my baby. And she said, oh yeah, baby for you. I know, Vietnamese girl. We know. So she was convinced of it, and I wasn't so convinced of it, but I wasn't opposed to it because I really liked her a lot.
Oh yeah.
So oddly enough, and as bad luck would have it, the Army decided to send me to another base, to a port, Bungo Bay, and it was really hard, almost impossible to get back there. Sent me a couple of letters, written in broken English, and and that, please come back. I am pregnant, blah, blah, blah. But the Army, I couldn't get back there. And then about 2 months later, I was ETSing. I was out of Vietnam.
What year was that?
That was in, I was there during 68 and 69.
So
that would have been like May or April of 69.
Wow.
I left Vietnam, and then they sent me to Germany.
Wow.
And then, so I never heard from her again. I had no address to send her anything, and plus the war was still a war. I couldn't just go back and take a plane.
No way, of course.
Civilian. That wasn't going to happen. So it wasn't until 2012. And meanwhile, I had a whole life. I had kids. I was married twice.
Sure.
And then that I let me. Do we have a second, or I have to stay here?
You have to stay here.
Okay. But on the back of all my books, I have a trademark. And
all right.
A picture of me kissing that girl.
Wow.
The back of every book. And
wow.
But anyway, so I went back with a Marine buddy of mine. And he's dead, by the way. He died.
Oh, to hear that.
Brain cancer, probably.
Oh my God! Sorry to hear that.
Probably from Agent Orange. It's on the list.
Yeah.
Anyway, we went back, and he was in the Battle of Khe Sanh. He was a Marine.
Wow.
And so we visited my areas and his areas, and I went to the village of Phu Hiep, and I had the pictures. I couldn't show him the video, but I had pictures from the video of the girl, and I found the same building that she was in. It was still there.
Wow, amazing.
And but no one in the village remembered her or knew who she was. And there was one older woman, probably around my age, and she said that any girls, especially if they were indentured slaves, prostitutes, or whatever, if they had an Amerasian baby, they'd be vilified by the communists when they took over.
True.
So she said if she didn't escape somehow, her and the baby, and I don't know if it was a boy or a girl.
No, of course not.
Mine.
Yeah, sure.
Amerasian DNA sites, by the way.
And,
along with the two big ones here.
Yeah, Ancestry and My Heritage and 23andMe, FTDN, Family Finder, right?
Yeah, I'm on all. So nobody has ever looked me up. And, so that was
that's a really amazing and sad story too. I've been working with this for years, and I had been going to villages on behalf of a Vietnam veterans asked me to look for the relatives, children. And it's hard because after 40 years, maybe you had no idea if this woman came from the village. Maybe she was somebody who came from somewhere else. She came from the north. You had no idea.
She told me that she was from somewhere else, and I never got the actual village. But they came and took her out of her house when she was 16, and she said they dropped her off with some older guy, and he broke her in for a week or so, and and he just raped her or whatever he did for numerous times over the week. And then they dropped her off in Saigon. She had a mama san there in Saigon that Mama san didn't like her, and the girls there didn't like her either.
Wow.
They ended up. She said that some GI came in there that she had slept with before, and he done mean things to her and around. So she told the Mama san, "No, I'm not going to sleep with this guy." So the Mama san sent somebody else in to do the deed, and then that night a bunch of the girls attacked her, cut her hair off, shot her all up, and then 2 days later they, this mafia, they came and picked her up and took her to Phu Hiep.
Wow.
But she liked the
Wow.
food. She liked the mama sign food. They had great.
Wow. Amazing story. So you went back to Vietnam 2012. How was it to come back after all those years?
Completely different. Absolutely. When I was there, it was like poverty, dirt
Uh,
floors. You know, they had they had like a Coca-Cola or beer sheets of metal that had all the
yeah.
like the Coca-Cola, Pepsi. But people would make them. They were the walls on the outside of the house. They had brass roofs, and you know everybody was poor. And when I
Mm.
went back, it was like I couldn't believe it how you know modernized everything was, and and along with motorcycles, thousands,
Mhm.
thousands. If you go to Hanoi and you try to cross the street, there's no red lights,
Oh
and
yeah,
like
still like Saigon.
into it.
Wow.
If you want to Google anything, Google the streets of Hanoi, and you can see people trying to cross the street without getting
Wow.
thousands and thousands of bikes, motorcycles.
So what do you remember most from the time in Vietnam besides Bonnie? Anything, something happened during that time in Vietnam? I mean, it could be a fire, it could be the people, anything that remind you all the time.
Well, we had a lot of Hueys that would come in that
Mm.
were on fire, and they
Wow.
had a large percentage of what they were made of was magnesium, and you
Wow.
can't put the magnesium out anyway. We had foam and everything. We would rescue, get the guys
Wow.
out there, and
So it just melted away.
yeah, and most of the time you couldn't put the fire out. The thing would
All
just keep
right.
and
Wow.
and they would burn up.
Wow.
And they never
That's
had, and I flew in helicopters a lot.
you did?
A lot,
Wow.
yeah, because I was in crash and rescue. You know, we
Wow.
knew most of the pilots,
Wow.
and the pilots would work. I'm not sure of the exact ratio, but they would work like 3 weeks in country flying combat missions, and then they'd give them a week to sit around the airport and just fly colonels and majors and generals around. It's called VIP flights. So those flights would be relatively safe, and they would be, you know, they would fly out, stay for a few hours, and then fly back to Phu Hiep. So I used to be able to, if there was room on the chopper on the Huey, I used to be able to just hop a ride, go to Quy Nhon or go to Nha Trang or any
Wow.
place I wanted to go. Not a lot, but like I did it like 2 or 3 times a month. I would manage to get myself on one of the flights, as long as I could get back in
That's
time.
true.
Coming back, yeah.
You wouldn't like to get AWOL, right?
No, I wouldn't. I didn't want to get AWOL. But
Wow.
I did see most of the and on the on the east coast of Vietnam. That's the only coast. On the coast of Vietnam, that was where was a whole lot safer than being in up in the mountains or in the Mekong Delta, something like that. But anyway, just because of my experience there, I the first novel I wrote was called Sammy.
Hmm.
Anybody that wants to go look it up, they can look it up, and it's about a guy who enlisted and went to Vietnam, and he ended up being something like Rambo. He ends up being something like,
Wow. The
yeah,
real one.
yeah, but a real one, yeah. And he was, and I got the idea because they were always talking about a guy like him, and he was, they called him the Jungle Killer, and he
Wow.
was basically AWOL because he didn't like to take orders, and he didn't like the way his superiors wanted him to go out and kill the Viet Cong and North Vietnamese. So he
Wow.
would just do it on his own. He would
Wow.
go out there and he was a super nice, friendly guy. He has a girlfriend in the story, but
Wow.
he was a brutal killer when he wanted to kill
Wow.
people. So it's a really good story. He has two good friends in the story during his life, and those things are called a bromance, like
Uh-huh.
brother. And then he has and there's two protagonists in there. There's a writer who I use myself. as that persona, and he works for Vietnam Magazine, and he's been looking for this guy.
Wow. So I had this kind of question. During that time in Vietnam, and now after all those years, you know about the immigration issues, and you're looking for your own child, you don't know it's a son or daughter. During the time in Vietnam, did you ever saw any like street kids who could look like Americans or Americans? Or I mean, maybe you didn't really think about it, but after that you thought, hey, that child could look like half Caucasian or half Afro.
Yeah, even when I was there were some Caucasian, Asian-looking kids. You would see them around, but the French were there before we were there.
Oh yeah.
So they probably created a number of offspring.
That's true.
And then when I went back, not so much. I would say the country seemed to be young. Like I would say, like everybody that you ran across seemed to be like 35 or younger.
That's true.
Old people, but not many. Maybe the Agent Orange killed them all. The old. We left that legacy for them.
Oh yeah.
Forever.
That's true. I always ask some Vietnam veterans about something they don't like to talk about. The 30 April of 1975.
That's the end of the war.
Yeah, how was you? That day? What were you doing?
Well, I was back in the States.
Yeah, I know.
But I've seen video.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know. That was really a tragic day. I mean, not only for the
helicopter that was taken off.
Yeah, it was like I mean, for most of the people was looking for somebody. That was the final day. They couldn't really do anything anymore, you know. It's just the end of it.
Yeah, well, we do that in every war. We desert our friend.
Yeah.
We do.
Frank.
Where we've done that in every war.
Finally, do you have any final word you want to say to the people who's watching this? Something you want to say about you, about everything?
I don't know. Old men argue, young men die. How's that?
True. So, Frank, how can people find you? You on the Facebook, right? You on the YouTube? Or you have books? I mean, you have so many things. If people want to find out about you, maybe they can help you to look for your child or Bonnie.
I can make that happen. Easy. If you can remember the G, and if you went to Google, Frank G Schafer.
All right.
And
Frank, if you want,
Frank G Schafer, writer.
All right. And Frank, of course, I will put your information. Okay, I will put your. All right. I'll put your information.
Read backwards. All these, they're all my books.
All right, Frank, I'm going to put your information on our Facebook too. And so people can reach out to you if there's any way to help you to locate your Bonnie and hopefully your child.
Yeah, and put that picture up of the two of us kissing. Maybe
sure.
She'll notice it.
Yeah. Frank, I really appreciate you took your time and talking to me, and it's a big honor. And finally, we had a chance to see each other in the real time, you know. And I hope you find what you're looking for.
All right, thank you, and you do a great job, my friend.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate it.
And you're not an American, and this was very important to you, so that's amazing.
I know, and it's always important for everybody.